interesting thing about Bitcoin. The most interesting thing about Bitcoin is freedom.
Woo!
It offers individual sovereignty, it's unconfiscatable, and it's not state-sponsored. I was at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame today.
Fuck you, Thomas.
I got my bracelet here, and rock and roll talks about freedom, and it came out of a need for freedom. It came out of a cultural need in America to be free, and it went right around the world. And people said, "I gotta be free." And it meant a really cheap technology called the vinyl record and mass communication, free radio, and we had a revolution, a cultural revolution. Now Bitcoin is that cultural revolution. It is freedom. Because it offers something that rock and roll never offered, and that is individual sovereignty. It offers a way to be divorced from the man, divorced from the police, divorced from the state, and to be your own country, to be your own sovereign. And that is a remarkable thing that's never been available before. So any day, just stack sats every day. Don't look at the price. Just stack sats. Don't buy that frickin', fiat money makes you addicted to spending. Hard money like Bitcoin makes you addicted to saving. You want to be a saver. Save yourself. Save humanity. Save your family. Just stack sats every day. Forget about the price. If it's cheap, stack sats. If it's expensive, stack sats. It's at 100,000, stack more sats. It's going to 1 million. Keep stacking sats. Fuck the price. Just stack sats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck the police.
Right.
Fuck the police.
Right? Hell yeah.
Fuck the bobbies.
As you say over there.
Fuck those bobbies.
PC plot. I like that.
Put your hand up if you don't have the DropBit app. Don't lie.
Exit building, please.
Motherfucker. Okay. You three people come to me afterwards with your DropBit app downloaded, and I'm going to give you some stats. Massive congratulations to the team for launching Lightning today. I think they've done a sterling and amazing job. I put a tweet out earlier offering stats to people if they said Tottenham are shit, which is a British football team, and it's been retweeted to amazing. So congratulations. So we should really still talk a little bit about Lightning. Max, Stacy, tell me what you make of Lightning.
Stacy.
You're up, Stacy.
Well, obviously it's a necessary development, whether or not people will want to listen to the likes of myself who made mistakes and bought, I bought 2 iPhones for 20 Bitcoin.
Woo!
And, that could be the same as somebody will be like, dude, I was at a bar in Cleveland and I spent, 50,000 sats on a drink. What a fucking jerk I was. Yeah, when it's at 100,000, you're gonna be like, right? But at the end of the day, so no, I'm excited about Lightning because it's, Max and I, our background is the gold market, and basically the entire financial system around the globe was originally built upon gold as the first layer. So I think this is a necessary development. I'm just amazed at how fast it's happened. Bitcoin's only 10 years old, so the fact that we're already developing these second layer technologies is just remarkable because it took 3,000 years for that to happen in gold.
Right, so as you know, during the 2014 period when the development of Bitcoin, the scaling solutions were perceived by some to be happening too slowly, so they went ahead and they created Bitcoin Cash and other altcoins to try to outdo Bitcoin, and you had that period of altcoins, which I think is now over.
Shitcoins.
Because I understand why that market really blossomed, and but now Lightning, is now part of the whole scaling solution for Bitcoin, part of its growth into more mainstream adoption. And so that's what it represents to me. So, and we saw now Bitcoin Cash is disappearing. All the other forks, hard forks, are irrelevant. They're all disappearing. I think 90% of the altcoins are irrelevant and all disappearing. Including the ones that are named after me. I wouldn't necessarily recommend them at this point. They were interesting in their day, but they have no interest at this time.
I want to follow up on that because Giacomo Zucco recently was interviewed and he said that he was talking about the heroes and the villains of Bitcoin. And he said right now the heroes are still the software developers because it's still software development. That's important to remember. It is the hardest money ever created, but you know what? We didn't really know that. Nobody, maybe other than Trace Mayer, nobody really knew that in 2011 and 2012. And it was still like, what the hell is this? We were the only people in the world on the media talking, in the global media talking about this on television. Everybody was still discovering it. Most people at that time did think it was like, like a gaming sort of currency that you could buy stuff and wow, look, you can buy an iPhone with it. It only revealed itself later after this hard fork, I believe, that really what it was, which is the store of value.
Well, the narrative's narrative, so the path got narrower. I think when we started covering it in 2011, the Bitcoin as gold was a narrative that we talked about in Prague in 2011. That was there was Jeffrey Tucker, I think his name is. He represented Bitcoin as gold, substitute for gold, and that was in 2011. So there were people presenting that narrative as Bitcoin as gold, and the process of market reality and market trial and error got to the point where Bitcoin as store of value became the dominant theme. And that happened in 2016, 2017. I think that theme took over in a big way. And that's the theme that got it onto mainstream television. So that's what got CNBC and other people involved and the media involved. And remember, Bitcoin is a very interesting technology, and in my view, and in my opinion, I think I'm the only one that has this opinion, but in my view, the protocol is self-aware. And it is kind of hacking humans. To get 100 quintillion hash rate, that's something otherworldly. People like Nick Carter, who's a respected analyst, says the same thing. This technology looks almost like it's coming from another dimension. And I think that we have yet to see what this technology is fully capable of, and some of the surprises yet that we will find out. It is pulling our better selves toward a better future if we allow it to do so. And even in this room, the diversity of people in this room and the diversity in the Bitcoin community is unique because we focus on Bitcoin and all the other divisions melt away because it's silly to focus on those divisions when you've got this protocol bringing us to the first time ever hard money that's unconfiscatable and it is eternal, and it is Gold 2.0. It's something that humans have been yearning for, whether they know it or not, from the very beginning, since the Big Bang. And now it's here, and it's just in time, because there are a lot of challenges, and there are a lot of bad actors out there, and they need to be weeded out. And this is the biggest exercise in civil disobedience ever conducted in human history. Bigger than Christianity, bigger than Martin Luther King, bigger than Gandhi, bigger than any of the big leaders of passive resistance is Bitcoin by far. And why and how and when, we're all discovering this. This is all happening before our eyes. So the price is the least interesting part about it. If we're not careful, it'll get to 100,000, but we'll be extinct. We have to be careful to stay alive, human, in this environment, because there's a lot of shit going on. Bitcoin doesn't need us. We need Bitcoin.
My favorite Bitcoiner there. Love that guy. All right. People in Cleveland and Ohio, I've struggled to say that. Every time I record my intros, I say I'm going to go, I get it wrong every time. Are you honest people?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Put your hand up if you own Bitcoin.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'm compromising my OPSEC right now.
Yeah.
We're about to go on a little boat down the Cuyahoga River.
If you didn't put your hand up and you haven't got some Bitcoin, don't fucking lie. Come to me and I'll give you some Bitcoin. Okay. Put your hand up if you've got any Bitcoin cash.
Yeah, right. I don't have any Bitcoin.
Put your hand up if you've got any Bitcoin cash, to be honest.
Not anymore.
What are you doing?
The IRS knows about your Bitcoin cash.
I'll forgive you.
No, be cash.
Really important question. Person. Your hand up if you've got any Bitcoin SV.
I have it just because I haven't gotten
Right,
rid
get
of
that
it.
guy.
Sorry.
No, wait, if you had Bitcoin before 2017.
Folks are forgiven. Alright, anyway, I'm joking aside. Okay, listen, look, I could keep asking questions, we can keep talking. We're very lucky to have Max and Stacy here. I want to put the questions up on the floor, take advantage. I mean, you can ask me a question if you want, but I will take advantage of this, guys. Put your hands up if you've got a question or point, come here, I'm going to give you the mic. First go. They want to hear you.
Guys, thank you for coming to Ohio.
Hey, nice to be here.
I would just like to hear you do like a thought experiment on where you think Bitcoin will be in a decade from now.
Or it'll be what?
Go ahead.
Still here.
Stacy?
Still here.
Yeah, well, I could say for a fact that 10 years ago I didn't think it would be right here. Like, I didn't see it bringing in such a diverse group of people. In the beginning, it was just the hackers and it was like people that looked really different. They were, let's say, nerds, okay? And I think it will be, well, it's changed everybody's mind. It's already infected, and I think there's no going back. So I think it will be universal, and the fact that I think governments, I think we see nation states in a real quandary now. They're all talking about these central bank coins. And did you see that moment of revelation that happened for Joe Kernan? And it was, he only understood Bitcoin once Libra happened. And that's, everybody has a different learning experience. Some people are just like mathematical geniuses and they could read it in a book and read the code and go, oh, I understand that elliptical curve. Yeah, that makes so much sense. Some other people have to buy some shit coins, lose some shit coins, get their shit stolen, figure out what Bitcoin is. And Joe Kernan at that moment realized, oh wait, now I see that Libra suck. I see why Bitcoin makes sense. But what? Yeah. And so I think this is the moment where, it's like pre-French Revolution sort of times, because the French monarchy, they tried to put off the protest as well by opening their books. Remember, I think it was John Law who convinced them to do that. And then once they saw their books, once the people realized they weren't divine, God had not appointed them, then it was all over for them. They lost their heads. The same thing now is once I think these central bank coins are produced, I think people go, holy shit, who better fucking get some Bitcoin now?
Yeah, I think going forward, that's going to be the issue, is when governments get into Bitcoin. And that's, as you know, the protocol has worked its way up vis-a-vis game theory to bigger sets of adversaries. So we had minor concentration for a while. That is not really the threat. You had altcoin threat for a while. That's no longer a threat. You've got regulatory threat, but that's not really a threat either. You've got people in Washington saying we've got to shut this down. It's a threat to dollar hegemony, but now the people are understanding that there's no way to stop it, so that's no longer a threat. Every 10 minutes, 10 years from now, every 10 minutes, coins are going to be released, emitted by the system. That's still going to happen. Happens every 10 minutes. It'll be happening every 10 minutes, 10 years from now. And everything around it, though, will change. It's not how is Bitcoin going to be changed or different in 10 years. It's how the world is going to be changed by Bitcoin in 10 years. Every fiat money in the last 300 years has gone to zero. Even Voltaire said in his day, all paper money returns to its intrinsic value, zero. The average lifespan of paper money is 27 years. The British pound's been around for a while, but it's lost 99.5% of its purchasing power. They all go to shit.
Watch shit.
This is all bullshit. Every single paper money has gone to zero. They've never have ever of them lasted. Okay, the dollar is going to go to zero. We're hearing rumors out there that China's about to announce that they're actually sitting on 10 to 20,000 more tons of gold than they have stated officially. That's part of this global de-dollarization, de-globalization reality that we're all facing right now. When they make that announcement, the dollar effectively becomes total shit overnight, and the world order is changed for the next 100 years.
Yep.
If you don't have Bitcoin or gold, you're going to be dead, sunk, finished. And that's coming. That revelation's coming. We entered into a deglobalization, de-dollarization world 10 years ago. In 2008, during the financial crisis, the world came to a screeching halt. It's been kept alive with money printing, quantitative easing, accounting fraud, stock buybacks, and everything we cover on our show. But that's been masking the underlying fact that we're living with a corpse called the global economy, being kept alive with formaldehyde of paper shit. And once the stink gets so great, and a country like China says, fuck it, we've got 20,000 tons of gold more than we told you, assholes. Okay? It's going to be a new century. And to my Chinese brothers and sisters in the audience, we are brothers in Bitcoin. We are sisters in Bitcoin. Okay? This is not to cast aspersions on anyone. It's Bitcoin and love will triumph over fiat money and hate.
Yes! Fuck the nation state.
Okay. This is the U.S. Constitution, right here. This is my pocket Constitution. This is the greatest document that's ever been created for government by and for the people until this document. This is the Bitcoin white paper, available for free at the Coin Center in Washington, D.C. This is the protocol for your ticket to freedom from state control, from censorship, from war, from hate. This is the gateway to peace, love, brotherhood, understanding, better rock and roll, better music, better sex, better food. It's all going to be better.
Will I get in trouble for that? In the UK, that's treason. You can get hung.
No.
What?
I did it without really thinking. I tore up a note.
Oh no, you're allowed to do whatever you want here in the United States.
Everybody take out some paper money right now! Join me!
Yes!
In this massive paper fiat terrathon! Fuck you, take out your paper money right now and enjoy the catharsis of ripping this shit up!
Fuck your fiat, motherfucker!
Understand this is slave money! Just rip it up! Kill yourself with the nightmare of paper money! Let me cut off! I'm censored!
Shall we? Shall we?
I ripped the dollar up. Such a cheapo. Such a cheapo.
Fucking shithole down!
There's way more dollars in the pockets that went down there.
That's it! Like Mike's dead!
Shall we?
Goddamn
Shall we?
CIA.
I really want to. My only prediction is, whatever the Bitcoin...
Detroit was better, y'all. Detroit is out ripping you people.
Go Detroit! Fuck Cleveland!
Cleveland. This is not very impressive, Cleveland.
Alright, my only prediction is, whatever Bitcoin's highest price is over the next year, in 10 years, you would regret not buying it at that price. That's my only prediction. Yes, sir.
I got a quick question, Max. It's about XRP, and I just want
No XRP. Fuck XRP.
Get here now!
Here now.
No XRP! No.
Who wants to see my
No.
underwear?
We're gonna keep shouting you out till you sit down. I'm serious. Fuck your bullshit.
Police!
Nah, fuck off, man. It's a Bitcoin event.
He demanded 2 hubs earlier. I knew he was bad. I knew there was something wrong with him.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Fuck off, man.
Next.
Fucking hell.
Hey, props to software guys, but to use our cryptocurrency, we still need hardware. A lot of our hardware is made in China. In the news this week, we've been seeing a lot of corporations kowtowing to China over the Hong Kong shenanigans, including Apple, others. So how are we going to use our cryptocurrency without using stuff that's made in China? Are people thinking we need to work on open cell phone projects and open hardware projects? What are people thinking about alleviating this threat?
Good question.
But hey man, Cleveland's a great place to get an industrial revolution going. I said our factories are right here.
Yeah.
They're all empty. Got a lot of people looking for jobs. Start making, mining equipment right here in Cleveland. Yeah, let's have that.
Yeah.
Actually, right here. No, but to your point, I think it's an interesting point about the growing awareness that a lot of our U.S. corporate, it turns out, is tied to Nike. You know, the NBA is an $8 billion a year business. Nike is a $40 billion company. Nike is very close to the Chinese company. So when people in America in the stadium are saying free Hong Kong, and the NBA shuts them down, while simultaneously castigating the President of the United States for depriving folks of rights. You've got a culture war happening here. You've got a massive disconnect. So that's why I believe that this tension with China is growing. You know, I obviously, given our show, have been on the receiving end of a lot of bullshit in terms of Russia. Russia's not the problem. Russia doesn't give a fuck about U.S. elections. China does, because China's a huge economy, and they want our market bad. And we've been waltzing our way into this conflict. De-globalization, de-dollarization, it's happening. Bitcoin is a way to get individual sovereignty. As far as your hardware problem, yeah, you're beholden to Chinese hardware manufacturers. Absolutely. But I think the protocol, as I've said before, is remarkable. I think it'll inspire folks, maybe you, maybe somebody else. They'll say, you know what, let's spark up the factories here. We gotta get in the mining business. We're not gonna let them run away with it. Okay, that's the answer. It's competition. I don't blame China for doing what they've been doing.
What's your fear?
They're not in it for the yucks, man. They for most of human history, they were dominant. China and India were dominant. You know, they want to get back to that.
I also have to say, because Max and I have been covering global finance and geoeconomics for, 14, 15 years now, is you see a lot of Cleveland is emptied out of its industry since we went off the gold standard. The invisible hand works when you have a global unit of account that is honest for all nations. So because we're able to print dollars, why the fuck would we need workers here when we can just pay the Chinese or pay Mexico or pay anybody in Latin America or Asia to create goods for us for free? Like, why on earth would any owners of any factory need to negotiate with US workers when they can just get free money from the Fed and go buy goods overseas? Like, since we went off the gold standard, and we don't have any, and we just have the ability to print our US dollars, we don't need workers, we don't need to create wealth anymore, they think. I think we actually do, and that's coming to a head right now, and you're seeing this in the global economy, the fact that we haven't had to create any wealth for, since 1971, I don't know how many years ago that was. But
40, 50 years
I think
ago.
it was like
Many decades ago.
48 years ago.
Right. Exactly right.
What was your fear?
My fear is that if China wants to really fuck with us, we can't use our Bitcoin because we have no hardware to operate DropBit Wallet. Supply chain attacks too.
I don't know
We need to
that.
start
I don't know an
right
answer
now
for
it costs
that.
about
There's plenty of other
Does
players.
anyone have any fun questions?
It's good. That's thought. I mean, yeah, you're right to bring it up. You're right to bring it up. It's a good point.
Hey, I know you guys traveled to come out here, so thanks again.
Sure.
Back just launched, and you get murmurings of Fidelity, get involved with Bitcoin. Can you guys speak to, is that a lot of hot air that institutions are going to get involved? Is if it's true, is that good news? Or, can you speak to that a little bit?
Do you know what? I used to really care about the institutions being involved when I really cared about the price of Bitcoin, when I selfishly cared about what it would do for me. Ever since I stopped trading Bitcoin, because I was fucking terrible at it, and started just doing what I do, which is like run a business, which is podcast and making money and buying Bitcoin. I don't check the price. The only time I know the price is when it's online. And I don't care about the institutions anymore. I don't really give a fuck. Because caring about the institutions is like a short-term selfish play because you want to make more fees. You want your Bitcoin to be worth more. I don't care anymore. Bitcoin was always about the people. It was never about the institutions. It's about the people. So if it takes a bit longer and it's all about us in here growing it, that's what I care. Fuck the institutions. I don't care about them.
Woo!
I think part of your question is about the manipulation. Obviously, JP Morgan was just charged with racketeering for manipulating the precious metals markets. By the way, Keiser report said that in 2011, we did a whole episode on racketeering. We actually said RICO should be used against JP Morgan for manipulating the silver market and the gold market. And we actually laid out exactly how they were doing it. You would think that if an international television show were to expose you standing there, say, this guy is manipulating the precious metals market exactly like this, you would stop doing that, right? Now they continued up until 2016, and now the Department of Justice has charged the top 3 executives at JP Morgan on the commodities desk, other than Blythe Masters, she's escaped, but they charge them with racketeering for manipulating the precious metals markets. So I think that's what a lot of people are expressing concern about, manipulation of the precious metals market. But as far as I know, like basically this was a cash delivery, so it wasn't even physical delivery. So it's easier to manipulate the markets when you're doing that. But what about that, Max? You were a former market maker, like you created market making technology. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, you know, my first job was as a stockbroker on Wall Street from 1982 to 1990. And so I always look at these questions from the point of view of having been in the industry and how the industry looks at Bitcoin. So what the industry is now understanding is that Bitcoin is a unique and new asset class. It's not a stock, it's not a bond, it's not a currency, it's not a commodity in a pure sense. It is a unique asset class. And it took a few years for that to be understood on Wall Street. And it took a few years for products to be developed around this new asset class. And the good news is that it means greater depth to the market. It means more liquidity. It means bigger players with more cash getting into this market. It means that as an asset class, it's now legitimately competing with gold, stocks, other forex currency markets, and gold. And so it is the introduction of Bitcoin into the major league. The downside or potential downside is that, like in the precious metals markets, these markets are easy to manipulate. There's very little actual accounting that goes on. The price discovery mechanism that, as Stacy alluded to, is easy to manipulate and corrupt. And we see this in the precious metals, but we see this in almost every single market around the world. Is what I would call a fake market, not a true reflection of the actual supply and demand. The good news is, if you follow people like Trace Mayer, who is probably the smartest guy in Bitcoin, and he doesn't like me saying this, but probably the richest guy in Bitcoin. But you know, he is introduced this idea of every January 3rd. Where you take your keys off the exchanges, private keys, you take them off the exchanges. What this does is it destroys Wall Street's ability to carry on with their price manipulation schemes unchecked. This is, again, another unique quality of Bitcoin, is that it is for the first time a way for investors to have a check on Wall Street. You would think that would be true in gold and silver because you could take the gold off the market, but that's never happened for a variety of reasons, and so that price hasn't been a true price for many, many years. With Bitcoin, that is now a reality, and there is now a check on the price, and we ultimately, the hodlers, have the ability to go toe-to-toe with anybody who's trying to keep the price down. The bias of Bitcoin price is positive. And in order for manipulation scams to work, there needs to be collusion. If anyone breaks ranks, then the collusion ring, the racketeering ring breaks, and you're taking a real risk. In the case of gold, the collusion is obvious and it's well documented and it's telegraphed in the financial press. But very oftentimes in the financial news, you will see institutions talking to each other, chatting back and forth about manipulating the price of gold. It's not a secret. And this collusion is possible because there's a natural buyer of gold. People buy gold, and there's always a 5 to 10% move in gold. You can always scalp those people for decades. Everyone loves gold, they buy gold, and every time it moves up, the professionals scalp you, and they do it on a colluded basis. The problem with Bitcoin is that, unlike gold, the risk of breaking the collusion ring is not you might lose 10 or 20% of your capital. The risk is you lose 300% of your capital, 400% of your capital, because literally the price can go from 8,000 to 80,000 in a day. So no bank, not even a corrupt Jamie Dimon would take that risk.
Yeah.
So that we have that in our favor, because the only thing they can really fight it with is fiat money. And the more they print to fight it, the worse position they're in. The more, regulators are run by fiat money. They're paid by fiat money. If you want to hire more regulators, go eat up more fiat money. Hire 5,000 regulators and I'll pay them all in fiat money, so it's all going to zero. We don't care. Fiat money is dead, worthless.
I also might say with that collusion ring, it really relies on collusion with the central banks and the U.S. government and the treasuries around the world, because like the U.S. government allegedly has 8,000 tons of gold, and they lease out the gold. On paper, they lease it out to J.P. Morgan to cover their shorts. But the central banks don't own any Bitcoin yet, or most of them don't. Some of them are starting to stack it.
All right, I'm going to look to the sides because I keep going down the middle. Any questions from the sides? This side? See your hand in the middle. Anyone from that side? Oh, you got a question? Didn't you just ask a question? No, you took the one.
I pointed to
Thank you guys for coming out. I'm a real big fan. There's been a long history of states co-opting free market technologies that were invented to make life better for human beings. And then bow and arrows to hunt and defend themselves and so on and so on and so forth. And now, we've had computers that allow us to communicate with each other, and they've been co-opted now to spy on us. Do you all have any concerns with an immutable ledger system that records every transaction ever being co-opted by the state to harm us?
It already is.
No, because there's a conversion process. Humans are easy to hack, and they're basically slugs that'll always go to the money. And Bitcoin, as long as it offers people riches, they will undermine everything. And that means the hash rate goes up, the security goes up, fiat money collapses. I forget who it was who said it, but Bitcoin is essentially a program to make humanity better, dressed up like a get-rich-quick scam. So all of the previous technologies don't compare. There is no precedent for it. This is a unique event in our history. And think about it. We've always wanted hard money. We've always wanted to trade. I read recently that the human face evolved to take a punch. So throughout history, we've been trading and using bad money to trade and getting beat up for it. So gold, so this has been an imperative that goes back to the very, very beginning, and that now has been solved. So hopefully the timing is such that we will reach the promised land of hard money, unconfiscatable individual sovereignty and hard money before we all kill each other. I'm hopeful. I don't think it's the government we have to worry about. It's our fellow human beings.
Also, it is important that people use things like CoinJoin, and everybody should basically tumble their money, their coins up, and make sure that it gives the immune system to everybody, like provide immunity for all in terms of that, because it is important. The NSA, they do have great cryptographers and technologists working for them, and they will uncover things about us that perhaps we don't want. We don't know what the future holds in terms of our government and how oppressive they might become. And you know, I just am disturbed because I just noticed that the photo, the poster here, has me wearing this jacket. And that's the last time I ever wore, like, I haven't worn this in like 2 years. I just got it out of storage, and I'm like, what the fuck, like, how did I even know that I was gonna wear this jacket tonight?
And I'm wearing your underwear. Go figure.
First, thanks for coming, guys. Really appreciate it. My question is about what do you think about the new regulations that the IRS just came out with this week? And just your general thoughts about the IRS's point of view with crypto and Bitcoin.
Well, the IRS is there. You know, I'm compliant with my tax obligations, and everyone should be compliant with their tax obligations. The guidelines are there, easily to find them, and you know, again, but that's an institution and that's a regulatory body. That's part of government. That's funded by fiat money, and they have their hands full with a lot of other stuff that's going on right now. I think that there will be a very the battles for the Bitcoiners are going to get harder and harder. It's because the people that are being threatened by Bitcoin are bigger. They've got guns. The U.S. military. They say the dollar is backed by nothing except the U.S. military. That Paul Krugman says over at the New York Times. So that's ultimately who we're taking on. But that is the true of every revolution. You know, any uprising against an entrenched oligopoly or a kleptocracy, they're well armed. The other side has the side of righteousness, but they never had unconfiscatable money that provides individual sovereignty before. So I think the fight at this time is uneven, but on the side of righteousness. Now the bad guys, no matter how many guns, bullets, regulations, it's all fiat funded. Therefore, they've lost before they've started. They're a dead duck.
Just as a disclaimer, I would never advise anyone break the law, but I'm aware there are ways to buy, hold, and sell Bitcoin without anyone knowing.
Well, but that's exactly right. So, first of all, the IRS, they've issued these guidelines, and these will be challenged by lawyers and Coin Center and places like that. Because obviously, some of the guidelines they've issued are totally unworkable. Like, I didn't even know that I have 1,000 other coins, for example. I just saw there's like 1,000 forks of Bitcoin. Like, first of all, some of them are dangerous. They're actually in attempts to steal your private keys. So, like, why should you be charged for that? Second of all, is, to Max's point there, is they're at a disadvantage. The government always wants your money. They want more money and more money and more money. But the only way they can get it from you in this regard with Bitcoin is to, like, work with us. To work and, like, not be stupid about this unworkable tax code.
Marty Ben just did a very amazing interview with somebody called Janine, and I advise everyone to go and listen to that. She talks about the way she protects her privacy and the way she buys Bitcoin. I think you don't have to buy it from Coinbase, who are up the government's arseholes, giving them every bit of information about you as possible.
Right.
You can buy Bitcoin for cash. I'm not going to advise you to not declare this in your tax report, but I'm just saying you can buy and sell Bitcoin for cash. And yeah. I think we've probably got time for one more question before Larry comes up. And whoa, this guy wants to ask a question. We're going to do this because he just walked up and he's like, give me the motherfucking microphone. And he's got a badass hat. And then Larry's going to come up and drop some fire.
Thank you. My name is Charlie Cannon with the Abundance Economic Network. We build network economy between expense value to cyber currency to create a hedge against volatility. My question is this: how long do you think we have before the repo market will be able to 19,000?
I'm definitely not answering this.
Excellent question.
Well, I think we're experiencing it now. I mean, it's just, there is, the global financial system is under tremendous stress. So the repo market, current crisis, depending on who you are listening to, it's either because Deutsche Bank was about to go under, JP Morgan was about to go under, or a couple of other scenarios.
JP Morgan was too big.
Right? But all of those scenarios are quite negative. And when you see short rates like that skyrocket, you know, it means that trust amongst banks themselves has collapsed. And it takes, you know, they're talking about, oh, if you have another 2008 crisis, then the IMF is going to create a $100 trillion lending facility backed by special drawing rights. And they believe, you know, like that parody of Hitler in his bunker, you know, to the very last second, he thinks he's going to win the war, right? So you've got these central bankers who are in a similar situation. They're in their bunkers, they're surrounded, they're about to, you know, blow their own brains out, and they're sitting there trying to fight this awesome power with paper money. I mean, so
He's ripped up all his paper money.
I almost feel bad for them, really. I mean, sure, I'd like to see Jamie Dimon hang, you know, but you know, not everybody, but he might do something that he's, you know, it looks bad. That's all I'm saying more.
Yeah, and again, actually, one of the other hypotheses, the fact that nobody knows, obviously, is because nobody knows what's even there. Like, it's all this fiat referencing other fiat, referencing a pile of debt, which references another pile of debt. Somewhere there might be an asset, nobody knows for sure, but it's also part of the de-dollarization process. So, you know, China and Russia, but other countries as well, have been dumping a lot of dollars. Russia's completely de-dollarized, but China's been accumulating massive amounts of gold in the past year, and that means they have fewer, they're purchasing fewer treasuries from the US, which means that when the treasury issues new debt to pay for all our budget deficit, the likes of JP Morgan and the other primary brokers have to buy the US treasuries. So that creates a liquidity crisis because they need, with these new, you know, after the financial crisis, they need certain tier 1 capital. So anyway, it could be part of this whole de-dollarization crisis happening, but we won't know until it all crashes. And then there might be some sort of investigation afterward to say, what the fuck happened?
Yeah. All right, listen, I know we could do this all night, but I think we also all want to probably get wasted at the party. So just a couple of things firstly. I want to just say a massive thanks and big shout out to DropBit. They sponsor my podcast. They spent good money with me. It's because of people like DropBit, Larry, Carl, that I can travel the world and do all these amazing interviews. So I do have to say a massive thanks to them then. A night like tonight, they obviously lose money because they're paying for it, and they're doing it because, yes, they want to grow their app, but they want to support Bitcoin. So huge round of applause, the best you can give, whoop, holla, everything.
Yeah!
Personally, I don't want anyone to leave tonight without owning Bitcoin, so if you don't own Bitcoin, download DropBit. Come to me, I'll give you some stats. If you're lying, I'll know because I'll see it on your phone. Fuck off, you've got loads. So there's that as well. Look, buy Bitcoin, hodl Bitcoin, spread the message, download DropBit, listen to Metallica, that's all you need. Next we're going to work on Larry, give a huge round of applause. Larry, come up. Drop it.
Real quick, another round of applause for our guests. I mean, they came to Cleveland. So, they gave great insights. They all have their own platforms, and I think their goal, much like ours, is they want to get more people into Bitcoin. We have a stated mission. We want to spread the global adoption of Bitcoin. 3 guests we just had on stage. We don't pay for them to come here. We didn't give them money to come here. They saw that this was a Bitcoin event. They saw it was an opportunity to say, okay, let's answer questions. Let's get maybe more people involved in Bitcoin. And in a lot of ways, that's what we're trying to do as well. Our app is free. We don't charge for our app right now. We're running a business, so we have plans for that. But again, in creating the opportunity to get people into Bitcoin, we saw an opportunity with DropBit to say it's a little too complicated for the masses right now. A lot of people don't want to deal with long, random character addresses when they're sending or receiving Bitcoin. For people in this room, that's not that big of an ask. But for the next layer of people that are trying to get into Bitcoin, that is intimidating. And ultimately, that might prevent them from getting into Bitcoin. So we create a wallet experience where we want to be able to text if you have someone in your contact list, or send them on Twitter if you don't. We will be expanding that capability. Lightning was a natural progression in that, because it never made sense to send someone $5 if it costs $1 to send, or 50 cents to send. So Lightning is a natural progression in this. We often say we want to be the DropBit, or we want to be the Venmo for Bitcoin. And in doing so, we have to make it easy, as easy as it is to send via Venmo or PayPal or Cash App. So we're not quite there yet, but we're making strides. And one thing I'll say about the team, this effort tonight, Larry in particular, I see a lot of faces here that I've seen at startup events in Northeast Ohio. I know there's a lot of interest in startups and entrepreneurial culture. The number one thing I can tell you in being part of a lot of these startups is it takes resilience. Nights like tonight are easy. It's the random Tuesday in March where no one cares that you exist, where you have to push through and stick with a mission and believe in a mission. And Larry, we have a culture of, we joke a lot with each other, we rip on each other, but I'll give Larry a lot of credit. He is as resilient when it comes to Bitcoin and creating a company that helps the ecosystem as anyone I've ever seen. And I'm not just saying that because he's sitting up here, and I think having a company in Cleveland and Akron, we wanted to do it locally. We didn't want to go out to the Bay Area or New York or internationally, because the reality is we can do it here if we stick to that mission and we're resilient. So, with that being said, Larry's actually going to show a little bit about the app, maybe talk a little bit about the app and where we're at. Again, this is a point in time. We're very proud about this. It's a step. We're not where we want to be. We've got solid growth. We're making good progress. The team, in particular, is really taking on the mission. But Larry's going to give you a little bit more insight on where we're at with the app.
I got to thank Peter, Stacy, and Max. That was awesome. I love the dollars everywhere. I want to thank all of you guys for being here and being part of this movement. Bitcoin's about the people, and any movement takes meetups like this to come and go out and take the time to help the movement, but also to learn more. I mean, I've been in Bitcoin since 2015, and every one of these things I've learned something new. So that's just great. Thank you all for coming. And then, most importantly, I got to thank our team. They've been working so hard for the past 3 months, ever since we decided we wanted Lightning and we wanted to do this, and how we wanted to do it better than anyone else. And we had an idea, we knew it was going to be hard, and they all came together, and it's amazing. What we have tonight, I think, where we were a year ago, even 6 months ago, is 10 times better than any app out there. So, thank you guys. While the developers were working, I also want to thank Kyle and Eric, our marketing team, for putting this all together. I didn't have to touch a thing. They just took care of all of this, and it turned out amazing. Thank you, guys. So Kyle stole my thunder a little bit. I want to talk about the gold bar app, but you pretty much summed up. Basically, we want to make it easy to get new people into Bitcoin. We want to make it so that you can give it to your mom or your grandma and they can use it. And they don't even have to understand what Bitcoin is. They can just start using it. That's the way adoption happens, is when people start asking, do you accept Bitcoin? Can I use my Bitcoin here? That's when adoption happens. That's what we want. So we try to come up with the fastest way, simplest and fastest way, to have a Bitcoin wallet and to start sending Lightning payments. So I'm going to try to airplay this and do a live demo. So here's a Bitcoin wallet. This is basically, we did a full new UI design for DropBit, so a little bit of the colors are different. We also added Bec32 or native SegWit addresses. So that was a big upgrade. For people that aren't young, that means you'll get cheaper, more secure, faster transactions. So that's awesome. But now I want Lightning. How do I do it? There's a lot of people that would baffle and confuse them, and we want to make it easy. So for us, just swipe to the right, and you load your Lightning wallet. I'm going to put $5 on. We have quick load buttons, but you can also do custom amounts. It's got to take a sync. Now it's out of there, and it's in my Lightning. Now, something no other mobile wallet can do, especially custodial, or not custodial, is to be able to send it to a Twitter. So, let's see.
Stacy
Herbert. Did I miss one? Oh, there it is. All right. And the beautiful thing about Lightning is I can send 5 sats. And we have encoded memos that are securely encoded using their actual public key and private key.
Nice.
So we
That's
can't
nice.
see your memos. Peter just got 5 cents. Now the Lightning part we're rolling out slowly just to work out all the bugs. So all the wallets start out locked, and all you gotta do to unlock them is come see us or anyone really that has it unlocked. If they send you 1 sat to your Lightning wallet using your phone number or Twitter, you'll then be unlocked. So we're hoping to start a buzz on Twitter and people will be asking other people to unlock them.
Cool.
Probably in about a month or 2 we're gonna unlock everything. So that's about it. We hope you like the wallet. Thanks for coming.
Woo! Woo! Thank you. Thank you, man. That's awesome.
Time to get some music and